citizens of Folly Town.
So, I'm non-binary.
Gross.
Should I call you Mister?
Non-binary. I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on.
You are.
What the fuck? That
What is
game.
up, space pirates? This is your admiral, the lovable lunatic Dr. Disaster. And, you know, it didn't have to be this way, folks. It didn't have to be that BioWare has become representative of the worst things in the gaming industry.
I heard that they're gonna possibly get sold off by EA.
And
They're currently owned by Saudi Arabia.
empty shell of its former self so ruined that gamers no
Sell
longer
it.
feel much of anything but negativity
Sell it to Square Enix. The whole thing.
for these guys.
I don't know who's gonna be dumb enough to buy BioWare, but I think Square Enix would probably do some good with it.
You hate me, don't you? He hates me.
There was a time when BioWare was actually just about my personal favorite studio of all time. I am a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm a huge fan of turn-based combat strategies, so you can imagine...
Oh, man, Jade Empire, remember that game? That was like the start of all those games.
that Knights of the Old Republic is one of my favorite games of all time, and that was a BioWare title. After that, they were responsible for arguably one of the greatest runs of all time. The original Mass Effect came out in 2007.
Yep.
The original.
I played the original Mass Effect by accident. I rented it because it looked cool, and then I beat it. And then Mass Effect 2 came out, and I beat it. And then Mass Effect 3 came out, and I beat it and was disappointed. That was really the downfall. That was where it all started, was the ending of Mass Effect 3.
Dragon Age came...
It hasn't been the same since.
Out in 2009, Mass Effect 2 was out in 2010, Dragon Age 2 came out in 2011, Mass Effect 3 was after that in 2012.
Remember when studios released games?
And then it all culminated in a Game of the Year winner with Dragon Age Inquisition releasing back in 2014. That was 6 highly regarded games in a roughly 7-year span that were released, a level of efficiency that is unfathomable by today's standards. And back then, we all kind of thought that this train would go on forever, but now I look back on that time frame for BioWare and it seems like a bygone era.
Before the dark time, before the Empire.
After Dragon Age Inquisition, the company was just not the same. It's no coincidence that that was roughly when the first...
I could really tell. There was a lot of purples, and it made me uncomfortable back then when it came out. I was like, there's something weird about this. There's something kind of gay about it. And then it just kept getting gayer and gayer and gayer.
Gamergate happened, BioWare, like pretty much every other AAA studio around that time, allowed itself to be infiltrated by activists who don't give a shit about their games. In the past decade or so, we've gotten the poorly received Mass Effect Andromeda, we got Anthem, and then the evidence of what happened to this once efficient and beloved studio became quite apparent.
We tried to tell them, we tried to warn them this whole time, this is not going to end well, this is going to cause a crash. And they just ignored us and called us haters and bigots, and it kept getting worse. The more people like that they hired on, and they just kept calling us haters and bigots and racists and incels, and look where we are now. It's like my catchphrase now. Look where we are now.
With the release of Dragon Age the Veilguard, one of the wokest pieces of shit that I ever laid my eyes on with...
Dude, I'm so glad that game came out as fucked up as it did, because I think if that game wouldn't have come out, then people wouldn't have pushed so hard against wokeism.
Scenes in it that looked like this.
It was an absolute disaster.
Your fingers are just perfect.
I think they thought that they were doing something with this. I think that they thought they were making moves, and it absolutely destroyed their movement.
Yeah, so... Are you trying to have sex with...
Hadn't really thought that far ahead, but maybe?
Quick, think about us having sex.
What the fuck? So cringe.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. I just
threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Well, needless to say, these days I am no longer really looking forward to any new releases from BioWare, and I doubt that I'm alone, which is why it is not
or really just EA in general, also Ubisoft.
At all to hear that this studio does appear to be on the chopping block for EA. As I'm sure everyone is aware, the parent company of BioWare,
EA Games. It's in the grave.
Electronic Arts was just purchased by Saudi Arabia, who went into massive debt in order to get the purchase done. This means that they want to run their company efficiently in order to end their debt as quickly as they can. Word is that BioWare and or its franchises is either going to be sold off or there will be massive layoffs at the studio, which likely means that they are basically going to be shut down because they are already running on a tiny skeleton crew. And as a Schadenfreude enthusiast, still plenty pissed off at what they did to my Dragon Age IP, I've got to say that this fills my heart with utter satisfaction.
Dude,
ruined.
Yeah, same.
I have nothing left.
Okay. I like this this midsection of Dr. Disaster's videos. I know it's just padding, but I love it.
Alright, me hearties, so there is some important context that we need to understand about this report coming out about BioWare when Dragon Age the Veilguard released. We all know that it was a woke dog turd of a game which caused the studio to implode afterward. As you can see here, about a year and a half ago, the studio lost...
Yeah, it's got all that gay lighting and all that gay fog.
Over 50%
everything's green tinted,
workforce, so that it now has less than 100 people working there. Reports were that they had about 75, to be a bit more precise, and those people were tasked with starting development of the next Mass Effect game. And to be clear, this gigantic...
I don't think that's happening.
Wave of layoffs that hit BioWare was a direct result of the failure of Dragon Age the Veilguard. It took place, these layoffs, about 2.5 months after that game came out. You see, they didn't sell many copies of it, despite the game being worked on for about a decade, with hundreds of millions of dollars flushed down the toilet on...
Yeah, that's usually about how it goes when you have that much money in a game and you have that many hands on deck.
Its development. They did, however...
You're not going to have good people working at a company like that. They're going to move on to a smaller studio, smaller team, so they can actually be passionate about their games instead of working on whatever the corporation thinks should be worked on.
Win the Game of the Year award for the Gaming Award ceremony. And no, that is...
There were even better games that came out for gay people. This was just a virtue signal to try and trick stupid people into thinking that it was a good game. I still get people saying that, oh, it was actually a good game. No, you are fucking lying.
Is not me making fun of anyone. There really is a show called the Gaming Award. Anyhow, they won at that show, but for the majority of the public, the studio became persona non grata, and EA chopped them down to the bare minimum people to try to make a new Mass Effect game. Well, now ownership has changed at EA, and word is that BioWare is either going to be sold off or they will endure layoffs, which, considering their...
And layoffs are not going to help. I just don't see how there's any other way than to just shut it down.
Already low headcount probably means that they would effectively be closed down. Either way, if this report is to be believed, something big is about to happen at BioWare. With that said, I am going to give my usual disclaimer and point out that the news we are talking about here comes from an insider source which I have no way of verifying. I recommend everyone treat this like a rumor, even though I suspect that it probably is quite true. With all that,
that's usually how it goes whenever we hear insider rumors and there's whispers from other insider rumors.
That said, let's read this article from Tech for Gamer talking about what's going down. It says here, EA's acquisition by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund finally closed this month, making the gaming giant a private entity with over $20 billion
Hell yeah,
in
let's
debt.
go.
The deal has certainly had its critics, with some even claiming that EA will now turn...
Oh, do you like American companies being bought by Middle Eastern countries? Yes, I do. I do whenever they're full of commies and they just fucking crash and burn. Yeah, get them the fuck out. You don't want to be American? Get out. That includes the corporations.
Into a sequel machine, considering how the company just announced that it will cut $700 million in costs, leading to layoffs. EA isn't doing a lot to silence the critics either.
They're definitely going to be selling off a lot of properties too.
So keep that in mind as well as we read this.
Coming very, very soon.
Layoffs are going to be happening according to EA themselves.
They have so many properties that they're not utilizing that they could just get rid of.
That suggests there is likely some truth to this news that we're talking about here. Reading on, the article then says, as it turns out, layoffs might just be the beginning, as the new owners may even sell entire studios and IPs.
Yeah.
Why it mattered. Despite stumbling in recent times, BioWare is
especially if it's going to be IPs that are not being utilized.
Still a legendary developer with iconic games and franchises under its wing, hence selling it could be a mistake. Well, that just depends on how much they get for it as far as I'm concerned. I agree that the IPs of Dragon Age and Mass Effect are monolithic intellectual properties which still have tremendous value based on the great memories that so many people have.
Yeah, all they got's nostalgia. Which, I mean, is a big market right now. They should definitely play into it.
With those franchises. The problem is that
re-release Sims 4, but de-gayify it.
Nobody trusts BioWare itself any longer to produce anything of value with these franchises. In other words, the problem is BioWare itself.
So, it's one of two things is going to happen. Either EA has a comeback, and we start getting great games from them again, or they completely crash and burn under the Saudis. Either way, win-win for me.
The studio has virtually zero value right now. They very publicly just cost their parent company a ton of money. So who the hell wants to invest in this studio right now? The real value is in Dragon Age and Mass Effect, and in the hands of another studio like, hypothetically, Larian or Saber Interactive or something like that. With them at the helm, we could see a renaissance for those games. It says here in the...
Oh yeah, Larian and Dragon Age, dude, that would kick so much ass.
Article, though, as reported by Mike Straw on Blue Sky, EA could look to offload BioWare in its bid to cut $700 million in annual spending. While answering a fan's question, the insider revealed that mass layoffs will happen at the company in the next 12 months, and entire studios like BioWare could be closed or sold off. Moreover, EA will also look to auction off some of its IPs, but Mike Straw isn't sure which franchises are on the chopping block. Regardless, the sale of BioWare, alongside its tentpole games like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, is now highly likely. According to reports from last October, EA also attempted to offload BioWare after the failure of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. However, talks to sell the studio fell through, and the gaming giant instead decided to greenlight Mass Effect 5, which is currently in production, with EA showing full commitment to the IP. And let's just be real here, the full commitment to the IP that they are showing likely amounts to posturing in order to move the franchise out the door.
Yeah, I don't believe anything that's coming from any of these corporate studios unless we actually get a good game out of it. Like Capcom, for instance. They just keep making good games.
The studio is at a low point, but they must act like they are excited about whatever it is BioWare is making next, or else their value plummets even further. But think about this. If EA was planning on moving BioWare out the door even prior to the Saudi deal, then things are even more precarious now that a cash-strapped new management team has come waltzing in. Ever since news came out that EA was being bought out, I was openly speculating that BioWare would be sold off, though I have been saying all along that the studio itself is basically less than worthless. It is all about those intellectual properties. Suffice to say that the people left working at the studio should not be expecting much job security, which serves them right in my view. The makers of...
Yep, put the fries in the bag. That's where you belong. Actually, I don't even want them working at McDonald's or anything. They should maybe be working in a factory, or maybe, you know, breaking rocks. I don't even know if I trust them to do that. Deport them. Just deport them.
Dragon Age, the fail hard, deserve to be under scrutiny, and they deserve to be feeling the pressure. Anyhow, make sure to hit the like button.
Deport all the commies. I'm just gonna keep saying that probably in every video, because I think it needs to happen.